All right? Okay, awesome. So I am going to talk for a little bit today. I want you to, feel free to answer or ask any sorts of questions as we go along. But I want to talk for a little bit today about how higher education works in ways that might be opaque to students. All right? And I want you to keep in mind how much of what I'm laying out causes or drives some of the problems we're talking about here. Okay? So, I'm told that, what do we charge per semester full-time? $1,200 a month, a year, a semester? 15. So it's $330 a year. Does that sound right? 3 grand? Okay. 35. So the place that I just came from, I may have told you this, but I'm going to tell you again. The place where I last worked was charging $54 for a year. $54,000 a year for school, and we're at $3,400, right? I'm proud to work here. Now, why on God's green earth would you ever spend $54,000 a year? Just so you get a picture of what that looks like, if you pay the full price in cash, you're already at $220 after 4 years. If you add in your books and other costs, you're getting pretty close to $225, $230, and we still haven't bought a plane ticket to, a plane ticket home. We haven't gone on spring break, and you haven't joined a sorority or fraternity with semesterly fees associated with it, right? So, what are we getting for $250,000? Why does that make sense for a parent to spend? Go ahead.
Kind of like the same logic behind playing the lottery. You might not win, but if you don't play, you can't win.
That's true. I like that.
This way you buy into, hopefully, if you go to the right school, you buy into you're trying to buy into the upper middle class, or not the middle income, but not the working class, but it's about $150,000 a year. Hopefully.
Yeah, you're trying to buy into the elite. Let me phrase it a different way. A way that you guys have all undoubtedly heard. The network, right? So, I'll relate a story, and this is a true story. I went to a faculty thing that one of the sororities had. And the particular, I don't remember which one it was, as if it's all Greek to me, get it? Anyway, I go to this thing that one of the sororities have, and I'm trying to make small talk, which I'm just pathetically bad at. And so-and-so, also, tell me what you're doing for your internship. I may have told you this. And she says, I'm working in the marketing department for the Baltimore Ravens. The Baltimore Ravens? And about 14 things are going through my head. How'd you land that? How much do girls like football? Right? And I said, oh, that's interesting. How did that work out? Oh, well, it's kind of a thing, actually. Katie over here, she's doing it for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, I may be getting the teams wrong, but because, I mean, really, in Gettysburg, who's going to go for the Steelers? But at any rate, okay, how does that work? Well, so-and-so's dad works in marketing for the NFL. Okay. Not the lingerie football league, not the arena football league, the NFL. Yep, that's awesome. Can I get an internship? But here's the thing. If you aren't at this school, and if you don't hang out with these people, these networks aren't going to be available to you. It's as simple as that. So there's a big difference between having somebody who writes your letter, be someone who actually knows you, and someone who's important in the institution, and just being one of 1,000 other kids who applied for that internship with, you know, letters from random professors at random colleges in the middle of nowhere. Does that make sense? Instead, it's, yeah, I know Mr. So-and-so. All right. Now, in sociology, we call this the strength of weak ties. You capture it colloquially saying, it's not what you know, it's who you know. Now, it's easy to get it wrong saying, well, so-and-so's dad is the company, and he's going to make sure he or she gets a job, right? It's not as simple as, I'm going to work for my dad's company. That's why it's a strength of weak ties. It's more like, I actually know her, and she knows this guy, and so when I think about my network of friends, the job opportunities that are open, if this is your network of friends, are very different than the job opportunities that are open if your network of friends happens to work at a chicken plant. Does that make sense? Now, if your friends are chicken plant friends, you'll know when that job opens up. But if your friends are professional sports team friends, you'll know when that job opens up. See what that? And that's a huge chunk of what you're trying to buy into. A huge chunk. In a large way, that's even more important than the prestige of the school. Because it's entirely possible to go to any of these schools and not make any of these friends. And when you get out, what do you got? You got a piece of paper that says Harvard on it. Well, that's awesome. But while you were there, here were all these opportunities. Does that make sense? So network is one of the things that matters. So we'll put it up here as number 1. Okay. Now, network is not the only thing that matters when you are spending way too much money on college, although it's a big part of it. The other part is prestige. Colleges are funny because prestige is almost more important than anything else. And schools compete with each other to be more prestigious as much as anything else. If I forget to mention it, remind me of the rankings when we get out, U.S. News, or before we get out, because that plays into this as well. So here's where perhaps how the school works might be opaque to the student, okay? And let's start with, so I'll put prestige here. Okay, now let's start with someone in my position, or a plain old boring professor. So if I want to succeed in my career as a professor, what I need to do is to do projects, do research, and publish. Okay? That's actually more important than anything else I can do. It's absolutely the most important of all. If I was in a school that I didn't actually like, then the way to get to a better place is to publish, 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 spend my time, my years at the school, at the first school, get out 5 or 10 articles, and then go back on the job market in 5 years and try and get an offer at a better school. Once I do that, then I can say, you know, then I take their offer and I go back to my school and I say, hey, you got to pay me more, and they say no, and off you go, and that's that. So within colleges, the promotion thing is pretty short. There's only like 3 ranks of professor anyway, and so it's not like there's a lot of way to go there. You go by doing this sideways hop, okay? Now, if what I'm interested in is this sideways hop to a better place, and the way I'm going to get there is by publishing and researching, how much time do I want to spend teaching? And the answer is not at all. The less time I teach, the more likely I am to go to a better school. If I start at a better school, and this doesn't matter, this process is the same no matter where you start. But if I start at a community college, this is how right? If I started at a teaching college, if I started at a research school, this is how I get to a better research school. But if I go from a teaching college, if I start at a research college, then that publication expectation is built in. So I still have to conduct all my classes, but I also have to write and publish on the side in order to keep my job. No doubt you've heard of tenure. So after 5 years goes by, in order for me to keep my job, they got to say, we like you, and the way you secure that is by publishing. Okay? Your teaching is, in most cases, secondary to your publishing. I want you to think about that. Even in colleges where they say the teaching is more important, if you want to maintain your outside employability, your publication is still more important. Okay? Let that sink in. Because my publications don't have any impact on you. Okay? Now, let's look at how the workload nets out for this. So a college like this, your teaching load is going to be what's called a 4-4, which means one semester you teach 4, the next semester you teach 4, for a total of 8. If you want to make extra money, you can teach in the summer. And if you want to make extra money, you can teach overloads. We'll add in summer, just because it gives you a full year. So let's do 2 the summer, and you end up with 10 courses. If you want to make money and you're a little bit brave, you can kick it up to 14. Just hold that in the back of your head. At a liberal arts school that expects research, so you got to do this if you want to get tenure. This was a teaching load the last place I was at. Okay? With no summer. So you can see immediately that if you take all of your working time over the course of the year, including summer, the difference between a teaching school and a liberal arts school with a research emphasis is double the actual class time. So what you'll notice is teaching faculty that start here are at a disadvantage all the way through. That doesn't matter so much. What matters is this guy is going to be able to write, and this guy is not going to be able to write. There's a hard line here between how much can actually be accomplished and be expected to be accomplished. Now, my my graduate degree is from Notre Dame, which is a research university, but it's also, it's not quite like a state research-only university. So theirs is a 2-2. So they expect much more publication. It's possible, if you are research faculty at a state school, like the people whose names are on the books you're reading, it's possible for these guys to have a 1-1 or even maybe only 1 course a year. Okay? So what I want you to recognize when you look at this is that as you move up the prestige scale, what you're getting are faculty who are actually the ones writing the books. What you're not getting is more contact with faculty or more teaching hours in the classroom. Okay? The other thing you're going to recognize is if you can get 10 courses out of somebody starting here at 50,000, even if there's no pay differential, down here, if they're making 50,000, you're only getting 2 courses out of them. So you're going to have to really up the number of faculty you have. And the real irony is 50 is generous for this and very low for this. Right? It starts lower, but by the time you get to the top, the pay is actually fairly reasonable. Like And by that I mean good. So two things happen. One, by the time you get to these schools, you start bringing in grant money. Okay? Because if I'm only teaching 2 courses a year, I can spend all the time I need to make applications to the National Science Foundation, the National Institute for Health, or whomever else I might get money from. So a big chunk of the way our public, or at least a significant chunk of the way our public schools are funded, is funded through the grants that come from the top down. Now again, I don't know what this means for you guys as students. It does mean, do you think Macon would be happy if I pulled in a $100,000 grant with a 40% overhead? Yep. Am I going to do it? No. But they would love it. So once colleges and universities see how that works, they build the structure they need to be able to keep that going. Here's the other thing. Every single one of these balances their class needs and their budgets by offshoring a lot of the teaching work. Okay? Which means, what I put up here is adjuncts. And you know adjuncts, they're listed in the textbook or in the class catalog as staff. So an adjunct is a per class temp employee. We hire them in for, I think here it might be $3,000. I've seen it as low as $18 at some schools, $1,800 a course. And that person is not writing, because let's face it, let's go with $3,000 per class. If you want to make $30,000 a year and you're adjuncting, you're going to have to do 10 courses. And you're going to be lucky to pick up 10 courses at the same institution. So often these guys, if this is their sole way of making a living, they end up teaching 3 courses here, 4 courses here, a couple courses here, and some online. So they're all over the map. So I would not recommend this as a way to make a living. It can be done, but it's not going to be a real good living. But the point is that adjuncts are your slush fund. We have more enrollment than we needed. Here's a couple of extra courses. We don't have the enrollment, so we won't hire those guys this year. But just as going from teaching schools to research schools, that teaching research balance changes, over the last 30 years, it used to be faculty with adjuncts as your slush fund to faculty with adjuncts being, in some schools, your main teaching pool. Does that make sense? Now, what that means, however, is adjuncts do good work. It's going to sound like I'm picking on them. I'm not. Adjuncts do good work, but you're paying them $3,000 a class. So their commitment to your institution is fairly low. We don't give them offices wherever I am. And they have to be doing other things to actually make a living. Sometimes they work in real jobs, which is good for them, but your class can't take too much away from their real job. Or they're teaching so many courses that they're driving all around, and it's a hectic life. So I want you to recognize this balance is changing, the adjunct to regular faculty. The teaching and research balance changes. Okay? I'm making notes here. Okay, so if I want to improve my lot in life, as I've said, I've got to publish. Now, what does publishing mean? It does not mean writing columns for the newspaper. Even though that's a good way to get the college name out to the local community, it doesn't matter in the larger discipline of sociology. One of the things I like to do, but is completely pointless, is consulting. So talk to local nonprofit, local government organizations, small businesses, whoever needs it or wants it, and try and provide some of the research services I used to get paid to do. And it's awesome because you can do it for the homeless shelter, you can do it for United Way, I did it for a Down syndrome group. But if it doesn't end up published in a sociology journal, it's just taking time away from actually writing and publishing. Does that make sense? Now, from your perspective, I could make the argument that building these bridges to nonprofits and showing you how to use what we learn in class in the outside world to help people to make money, whatever, is actually a better benefit to you. But it's not incentivized. And that's important. And like I said, even if it's incentivized here, the fact that universities don't respect that so much means that unless I'm willing to get behind, I don't want to spend too much time doing that, right? I got to be competitive on the outside, not just the inside. Because if something happens here, and I got to go back to the outside, that's a dangerous place to be, right? Think of how much we've talked about the auto plants moving to robots and everything else. When you got to be always competitive on the outside, so that's something you got to think about. Okay. So here's the box. I'm going to call it the sociology box. And what I put in the sociology box, these are about the only things that are actually going to help me in my career. It's publications in sociology journals. It'll be sociology books, not fun books, not self-published Amazon books, sociology books going through the traditional presses, and prestigious positions. The good, prestigious positions. You guys understand that, right? Okay. Anything that does not go, any work I do that does not go in the sociology box, applied work, industrial work, spending extra time on teaching, consulting, nonprofits, you name it, does not actually help my career. So we'll make an other box. This is the not box. It looks like a tangled knot. Consulting, applied, industrial, and so on. Now, this is just how, as an individual faculty person, I try and improve my well-being at this institution or at another institution. Because I'm just laying out for you how the game is played. What does this mean at the college level? Okay? Now, at the college level, the college level is where spit it out. The college level is where the U.S. News rankings start to come in. Some of you are thinking, I'm going to take my classes here and I'm going to transfer to a good school. So you're looking at the U.S. News rankings. What does that actually mean? Well, what it means, a big chunk of the way the U.S. News rankings come out or are calculated has to do with the peer perception of their prestige. That's an awesome alliteration. The peer perception of prestige. And you get that by calling up other colleges and asking them about perceived rankings. How do you think this college is? How do you think this college is? How do you think this college is? And there are a couple of different methodological things. Essentially, you put it all in, and you end up with a ranking of prestige. Okay? Well, if I already told you how I'm going to improve my prestige individually, and the people who are being asked are other college people, then one of the best ways to improve your ranking as a college is to make sure that you have more prestigious faculty. You want more prestigious faculty, you want more publication in the academic press. When your peers start to see your institution showing up in the academic press, they're going to assume you're doing something right. And you are. And you're going to climb the prestige ranking a little bit. I don't know if anybody's ever going to top off Harvard, for instance, but you'll climb up the prestige ranking. And that's important. Okay? Now again, and this is why I spent so much time talking about faculty load here. Because in order to up the prestige ranking, you're going to have to reduce the teaching load. You're going to have to give some support to research. Those are both expensive. And you're going to have to either expand your faculty, which is expensive, or bring on more adjuncts, which is, we don't like to talk about it. Politically, we've got to keep it a little quiet. There's a community college I'm familiar with in my hometown where I think they have over 90 adjuncts and 4 or 5 faculty. Every year they put out thousands and thousands of courses, and there's 3 or 4 faculty, right? Well, it's because the bulk of the teaching is done by adjuncts. So exactly what we're going to do to drive up our prestige is going to increase the cost of what we're offering. But it's not necessarily going to do anything for the students. You need to recognize that. That's key to this. If I'm consulting with community businesses, I could say, yeah, I've got a good opportunity. I know a kid that would be a great internship for you. I know this company you could talk to. But if I'm doing this, I'm wasting my time. If I spend my time painfully picking over the writing that people turn in, every single paper, correcting and helping with the English and the grammar and the structure and the elegance of the writing, I'm wasting my time, right? Because that's down here, it's not up here. In fact, there's not, if I'm taking sociology, and I actually really like sociology, I think it's awesome, and I think it's ridiculous that sociology majors have trouble finding work. What we do is done by so many people throughout the economy, but many of us won't be able to tell you where to find it or how to do it, because this is what we do, right? It's not in the sociology box. It's an outside box. So consequently, you don't think you know what to do with sociology. Sociology was cool, but it's kind of useless, right? And parents say, don't take sociology, EGAD, not that. Anything with sociology. Okay, Dad, what about art? Okay, maybe not anything with sociology. All right, now the thing is, I'm picking on sociology, but this is going to be true of everything. So how much of art is taking place in cinema and video game design? A lot. How much is taught at your average college? Probably not as much, right? Because of that industry-academic split, which is sort of unfortunate. What I laid out here for sociology is true of every traditional academic discipline. Soc, psych, history, philosophy, theology, you name it, a traditional academic discipline, this is what people are thinking. In which case, if we are winning this game, then my best and favorite students, I'm going to encourage to go to grad school. And that's going to be how I measure success in my department. But that doesn't help you if you don't want to go to grad school. Okay? So the key thing here is what's driving up prestige is not necessarily changing the student's experience for the better. All right? That leads me to number 3. So I'm going to erase this stuff. Amenities. Now again, every college that I'm even remotely familiar with in the last 10 or 15 years has overhauled 3 important things, or built brand new from the ground up. They've overhauled the food, they've built dorms that aren't dorms, and they've built gyms, which are temples to the body. Okay? So, FUD, food, gym, house. All right, this is going to sound like uphill in the snow both ways. But just for the record, I'm not that old. I don't want to hear any moralic comments either. But it wasn't that long ago when I actually went to college. And when I went to college, my freshman dorm room was finished in cinder block and painted white, with tile floors, and not like nice tile floors, like nasty linoleum that 18-year-old boys are not going to destroy, and they didn't. The beds were steel, and we, you know, in a nod that we might actually do some schoolwork, there were some very worn-out old wooden desks. That was it. No in a lavatory. But if you really had to go, the potty was down the hall. I mean, that's pretty typical, I think. Until I see what colleges are putting up. So if you make it through the first year, nowadays, in school, by the time you're a junior or senior, you get a suite. And it's not just a suite, it's a sweet suite. They're pretty, and they're nice. And just, you know, when you get a chance, ask the grown-ups in the classroom what their very first apartments were like when they left home, and compare it to the level of the new housing going in at most colleges. It's the difference between, yeah, I lived above a garage, or I slept in the back of my pickup for 6 months, and luxury apartments. Okay? Which is a little bit backwards when you think about it. So at 22, you're going to live in a luxury apartment. There's only one way to go from there, and it's not up. But, okay, same thing with food. We had an awesome cafeteria. It was in the basement of a monastery. And if they had eggs that day, you ate eggs. And if they had hot dogs that day, you ate hot dogs. You went, got your tray, you stood in line, there's a steel line. You made small talk with the ladies. And that was the extent of your choices. Eggs or no eggs? Oh, how about 2 scoops of eggs? No. No eggs for you. Seinfeld. And that was it. Okay? Every college I go to nowadays, every single one of them, you walk in, here's the pasta station, here's the grill with the pizza and the hamburgers, over here is a salad bar, and it's got greens imported from Fiji. I don't know. Beautiful, beautiful places to eat, and they got them all over. And they've got a little Starbucks tucked in here, and you know, we even do it here. What did we just install in this building? That's right, a cafe, a game room, and a gym. Number 3. Okay. So when I went to college, my college had a kind of a cool gym. The only reason it was cool was because it had an old-fashioned Greco-Roman name. It was the Palestra. But when my ex-Marine friend wanted to go work out, so I accompanied him down to the weight room, I was a little entertained by the fact that the weight room was a racquetball court that had some mats thrown on it, so nobody would dent up the floor with and that was a weight room. I said, yeah, I don't think so. Have fun. Bye, Mike. Ick, right? I mean, and we even had pretty good football teams, so this must have been an in-between thing. Nowadays, it's got a big, beautiful new thing. The women's college, like you guys have to take PE credits or whatever they are here. The women's college, the girls could take, well, I don't know. The young women could take a weightlifting class, and they had the machines kind of wedged in the stairwell of so they had an auditorium, you know, for basketball and stuff, and because it was this off-kilter building, it wasn't perfectly square, and it wasn't on there's like a half a staircase with some wasted space, so over here they had 3 machines, and then halfway down this half case of stairs, there was more here, and then another half, and then there's more. This is where the girls are lifting weights. Are you kidding me? Now, when I started talking about this in the other class, you know what they said? Oh my God, you should see Georgia Southerns. Even the fact that my students know the school by the gym shows the effectiveness of that as part of their recruiting tool. I don't know why, I don't know how, because I sure didn't work out when I was in college. Somehow or other, the gym has become student activities. That's where people go to meet. Gettysburg had this gorgeous gym. I mean, gorgeous. And like all the squat racks were painted Gettysburg orange, and they had a smoothie bar. They had real barbells, free weights over here, and then they had hamster wheels for the girls. It was all brand spanking new. They finished it the year before I got there.
Did they have an indoor pool?
Oh yeah, gorgeous pool. And the climbing wall, because every college needs a climbing wall. Right? Go for it.
Macon State's making a gym just like Georgia College, and Georgia College gym is like crazy. It's huge.
Mm-hmm. And yours has a lazy river?
It does.
It does. It's supposed to. That's what I heard.
That's what you were gonna be paying for when they had that gym fee that they took back off, because they postponed it for a while.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny because like the Yankee in me wants to make jokes about lazy river because we don't walk all that fast down here. Which is only funny until June and July and August when I can't figure out why my clothes are all sweated out and everybody else is looking at me. Dude, what are you hurrying for? I'm like, oh, this is awful. But kidding aside, absolutely. And every single day I walk up the stairs, or every other day, I walk up the stairs in that brand new education building and I see this thing, like on Monday, it was just a hole in the ground. Yesterday, they had steel girders sticking up. So they're getting vertical fairly quick.
So they are building the gym?
Yes, they're in the middle of it right now. They're building it where the tornado took out all the trees, which I never saw. Which is across the lake from the other side of the
Crane and everything. We've got like a giant crane and everything.
A giant crane. It's kind of exciting.
What about you?
Crane.
You remember that racquetball court with if they used the old gym for storage, they wouldn't have that much storage. It's actually, whatever their wellness center now is very small. I went in and I couldn't find a squat rack, so I left. That's me. Sarah, your hand was up?
Oh, I was just gonna say that they're doing all of this because isn't it like in 3 or 4 years they're trying to make it into Middle Georgia University?
We are supposed to be a university. You might wonder what a beautiful gym has to do with the university.
It's just like upping our standards.
Yeah.
They're trying to do like why they did the new dorms, why they did the new teaching building.
Remember that internship for the marketing department?
Don't give me that one.
I think you should go talk to Macon State's marketing department. It is upping our standards, but the question that you have to ask is, what the hell does it have to do with being a university? Now here's the thing. Aren't we turning our football team from a club into a real football team?
Yay! Except for the night, that stinks.
Are we not?
I don't know.
They're trying.
I don't.
Yeah.
What is it?
You don't think it's
National
nice?
championship last year, so they really had nothing else to do.
Yeah, but I saw that we were playing like high schools. Christian high schools.
Don't try and take that
Nice.
title away from us.
What's that?
Don't try and take that title away from us.
Well, if you guys are okay picking up on the little Christian boys and beating up on them.
I'm perfectly fine with
Your
that.
school last year.
Did it not get beat too?
Never did.
I can't remember.
Yeah. So now, UGA, if you live in Georgia, it's okay to hate Florida and Alabama, right?
Yeah.
Okay, there we go.
Hey, we're still winners.
It's not okay, it's required.
It's required?
Yeah,
I can live with that.
it is
I can live
required
with that,
if you live-
especially after last year. Holy Moses. Okay, so we gotta have athletics, you gotta have a nice food, you gotta have a nice gym, and you gotta have nice housing. You will notice if you pester some of your faculty, you will find many of them don't like any of this. They're actually somewhat against it. And some of them won't take much pestering to get them to say that. Right? And the reason is because all of this is driving the cost up, but it hasn't improved your education one iota.
Parents aren't too happy about it either, trust me.
Oh, absolutely not. No kidding. No way. No, it's expensive. It's expensive. So, I'm not setting up a false dichotomy straw man here for you to attack either. Why is it that every college I've been to in the last 10 years has upgraded these 3 facilities. Every single one of them. I'm not even kidding.
Marketing.
Make more money.
Because
It's
of the
marketing.
kids. Oh,
And who are we marketing to?
kids.
Not the parents who are paying for it.
The kids.
We're marketing to 17-year-olds. We gotta write that up here, with a K.
Narrative.
Right? Marketing to 17-year-olds. So when you go driving around with your parents, or when you grown-ups take your kids driving around to check out colleges, you walk around campus and they show you all of this stuff. Now, are they going to show you, can you just imagine, Chad, when you transfer, you should transfer here because we have the best, the widest availability of library databases in the U.S. Well, what's a library? Right? I'm not picking on you. That's what the 17-year-old says. Now, you do need that if you're going to get these guys. But as far as the kid's concerned, the network and the prestige are just vibes. They're a part of the conversation. They're a part of the equation, if you will, the buying process. But they haven't thought through what that actually means. They just know Harvard and Yale are awesome. I think I'll be able to get a job, right? Well, there are reasons for that. I think I'll be able to get a job because of the people I'm going to meet. I think I'm going to get a great education. Well, it's also entirely possible in most schools to get a crap education because because why? Because of all the stuff over here. You didn't have access to the faculty you thought you were going to be with. You didn't make friends with the people who were going to get you opportunities. You showed up, you got good grades, and you went home. That's not actually going to help you. Isn't that interesting? Go ahead, Chris.
Do the programs that are offered factor into what you're talking about? Because I know that Macon State or Middle Georgia or whatever we're called now, they have like 0 programs as far as school go. Like, if you're looking to be a physical therapist or a doctor or something like that, you go to Macon State to be a nurse. They're known for the nursing, I believe, but I'm not sure. But that's the only program they have. I don't have a physical therapy program or any kind of program like that.
Yeah. So there's actually an interesting difference between what the traditional college is offering and what these other programs are offering. Okay? So history, psych, soc, philo, education. Education's a little bit in between. But these guys are traditional academic disciplines. You get out, if you do really, really good, you should be ready for grad school. If we compare that with PT school, or law school, or med school, in all of those more applied sorts of disciplines, all this stuff on the inside is not only acceptable, it's actually encouraged. And if you look at someplace like I can see those applied programs are less academic in the traditional sense. They're very good programs, don't get me wrong, but they're less academic in that traditional sense. But when I think of middle-sized private universities, including even, for instance, Notre Dame, one of the things you recognize is that a lot of their success is driven by these programs. So Notre Dame has a very good law program. They have an engineering program that matters, and their people get hooked up when they get out. Creighton in Omaha has a med school, a dental school, and a law program. Those are profitable, and the people get hooked up when they get out. As an undergrad, you take the traditional academics, but this is what their grad schools are offering. Yes, Macon State did offer nursing as one of these applied programs. Depending upon the kind of school, education is sometimes one of these programs. But this is actually key. If we look at low-level schools without much prestige, and I can give a couple of examples from the Catholic education land, but I got to be careful if it's getting posted so I don't insult anybody too bad. Schools that are short on this and long on this don't carry much prestige at all. So you could end up at St. Mary du Sal, and you could, those Midwestern women's Catholic colleges always had nursing, always had education, and those were big drivers. But they didn't carry much prestige because people saw them as essentially tech schools. So as much as we complain about this, what do I got to take all those courses for? It's stupid. This, at least on the academic side, is an important part of that prestige. If you work here, like sociology, this exists in between sociology and CJ, doesn't it? You know what you call a sociology department that focuses too much on CJ? It's put down. It ain't nice. It's a cop shop. Is there anything wrong with graduating cops? No, but it's not very academic. Why is it not academic? Have any of your faculty put anything in the AJS lately? I mean, that's the long and the short of it. See what I'm saying? And so that actually matters a lot. Go ahead.
Yeah, 'cause, I mean, like, all these, the food, the gym, the house, and the athletics, I mean, it seems kind of irrelevant when you don't have anything, like, say, just local places, I guess. If you look at GCSU, you're probably going to be a physical therapist or a trainer. You go to Mercer, you're going to be a lawyer. You go to Gordon, you're going to be a nurse. You go to Macon State, where are you going to be? I mean,
Astronaut. Well, part of the problem is that Macon State focuses so much on being a service college, right? How many of you, show of hands, how many of you plan on taking some of these courses and transferring somewhere else? Hold them high. Look around.
Does transferring somewhere else apply after grad school?
Sure. That there is what Macon State does. Now, if we want to change it, and I know they do, then we're going to have to start playing this game. But as soon as we start playing this game, cost gets involved, right? And the tremendous value that this provides is lost. Go ahead, Sarah. Daryl, will you put your hand up? Okay, go first, Sarah.
I was just gonna say, it's not as bad as the school as y'all are making it out to be.
I didn't say it was a bad school at all.
yeah, I would say it's a bad school either.
The words coming out of your mouth are implying that it's a crap school.
I'm
It's
saying
not.
it's a
Well, that's what everyone thinks.
I mean, it's,
You can ask all my friends that go elsewhere, they're like, oh.
But
Macon
people
State
think that
sucks.
because they consider it a community college, like everybody grows up around here. It's like the local college that everybody goes to. That's the only
I mean,
reason.
but every town has that college. I mean, Savannah has Armstrong, and yet half my class is transferring to Armstrong.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when I grew up in
And Macon
Omaha,
State's one of the
I
hardest
went to,
schools, like, I know people that go to like GCSU at Georgia and all other places, and our work is a lot harder.
It's a
than
good
theirs.
school, it's just local, which makes people think it's bad.
Yeah.
It's not a 2 year college, and what you're saying is you're
Notice-
comparing it to a 2 year college.
I didn't say anything about whether the school sucked or not. I did fully imply that the school didn't have much prestige, didn't I?
Yeah.
And they're trying to change that.
I used that language very, very carefully, and I used it on purpose. Okay, so keep that in mind. When I grew up in Omaha, I went to a prep school, and we all called it the local university, which is very similar to this, except about 30 years ahead. We called it the University of No Opportunity. UNO, right? Nebraska Omaha. Get it? Get it? Of course, I ended up taking classes there too, like everyone else. Go ahead, Daryl.
I was just thinking when you say that, isn't education pretty much the business of the elite, giving us something to do while they still make money? Because you're not guaranteed you're gonna get a job. It seems like school should be geared toward more financial education. You go to school to hopefully make money doing whatever your occupation. I know you might love what you're doing, you know, but at the same time, if you're not paying the bills, you trying to raise a family, it's not gonna work. So it seems like the education system is based on business for them to continue to make money. You got to market the food, like you market the product.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, they're not guaranteeing you nothing for as, you're not gonna be, you know, like most people not beating down their doors, like, especially like business majors, certain majors. Nobody's coming to your school saying, hey, you gotta have that person you tell them. Most schools don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I look at it's nice to get education. Hopefully you're going to choose something you like, and hopefully you're going to get a job there when you get out. But for as a school, I already have a couple of degrees. I never depend on school for you making money. It's two separate things.
Well, that's actually why I put this up here. You know, whether we're trying to make ourselves into better humans, the cultivation, or whether we're trying to make ourselves more employable, the training side, there's a big, I mean, there's also, if you look at how the picture I drew up here so far is a great big mess. We want to try and get education, right, which is somehow or other buried in the prestige, which is somehow or other linked to whether your faculty's publishing. And at the same time, we want to make sure that the students have nice food. And we want them to take a lot of different courses, but we need to also make sure that we have some technical graduate programs, right? It's a big mess. It's not, and so how are we actually going to cultivate people, or how are we actually going to train people? That's an interesting question. What comes next is something we definitely need to think about. We definitely need to think about. Okay, Chris, go.
With this prestige, I don't know if this plays into it, but like with the prestigious colleges, you know, if you want to get a job, like if you go to, say, like Emory University, the job recruiters at Emory are going to come to graduation and talk to you. Just like my dad works at Georgia Power. If you want to get a job at Georgia Power, you go to this college because the people at Georgia Power go to this graduation and they get you a job there. But I mean, what I'm saying is like, right, the network is more available at these colleges that you have to pay a ton of money, and I guess you're paying into the network that you're talking about. I mean, like, let's see.
Yeah.
Like Georgia Tech, you know, you go to Georgia Tech, there's going to be a lot of recruiters there. But
That's,
I mean,
part of the trick of the game. Have you gotten a better education at those schools? Not necessarily. I mean, I've taught all over the country. I've taught at Notre Dame. I've taught at places you haven't heard of. I've taught here. Do you think I change what I'm doing if I'm teaching here versus Notre Dame?
No.
Do you think I'm changing what I'm doing for you here versus $250,000 for Gettysburg College? No. You guys are different because y'all have funny accents. But seriously, I'm doing the same thing, right? So you're getting, presumably, the same product. You're absolutely right. What you're paying for is the prestige and not necessarily the education. You can't let the academics slide. You absolutely cannot. And schools that are getting desperate will let academics slide so that they can bring in more bodies and get their tuition dollars up. But that's a game that bites you in the butt very, very quickly. I've seen a lot of schools do it. Now, here's the question. Here's what's interesting about this. When people say, oh, you know, college is so expensive, it's going up faster than inflation, well, is it any wonder? If what we're expecting of the faculty is to increase their prestige by publishing, so that we've got fewer faculty teaching fewer classes, and it's not easy as faculty, the wholesale offshoring of the teaching to adjuncts has been very hard on the industry as a whole. Like, faculty jobs are very hard to come by nowadays compared to even 30 years ago because, I mean, it's easy to pick up a course, but it's not easy to pick up a long-term job. So, it's a problem for them, but we gotta find money somewhere if we're gonna give our top 5 or 10% of people teaching time to actually publish. That money's gotta come from somewhere. If we really want to have better food, better gym, better housing, and a good athletics club, we better find the funding. It's got to come from somewhere. And there's not a college, there are very few structures or businesses or anything that will actually shrink back on stuff so that they can keep their prices down. Now, the college had tried to be the value provider. We're going to provide a kick-ass education, and we're going to do it cheap. They're toast. They can't compete in this market. They can't compete in this market because you don't market to 17-year-olds saying, you'll learn Shakespeare is good for me, as you would from someone at Harvard. At Harvard, it's just going to be a grad student anyway. And you can pay for it during the summers. Like, it just does not happen. So colleges that want to be competitive must play this marketing game. Some in the industry have called it an arms race.
You don't think with the economy the way it is that the kids and the parents are coming back down to this level of school as opposed to going and spending that kind of money at the University of Georgia?
I actually think that we've created a system that may have some fairly serious structural weaknesses, which is a very fancy way of saying yes. So here's my example. Recall that the graybeards around here who are teaching with me, some of them were able to go to college at a time when you could go to a name brand school and pay it off by working over the summer. Not the community colleges, the schools with names. Okay? My own college that I went to when I was in school, by the time I got there in 1989, I believe tuition was something like $12,000 a year, which seemed like a lot at the time. I don't pay $12,000 a year, but there it was. My brother-in-law went to the same school, and I want to say it was about $5,000 or $6,000, and that was just, maybe 10 years before me, but it wasn't 10 years. So $6,000, $12,000, and nowadays that school's running in the 30s also. Okay? Now, granted, $1980 aren't that great, especially after the last couple of years. But there's no way inflation is going up as fast as colleges are going up. Okay? So you've got this exponential growth in cost. Where should the pressure to keep costs down come from? It should come from the consumer. Okay? The problem is, now this is interesting, think about this in terms of the housing bubble. The problem is, you guys have very few real limits to what you can spend. Now I say that and you go, wow, whatever, like I made of money. But if by some magic you got into Yale, well, it's not because you're stupid, it's because it's essentially a lottery with so many applications and so few people getting in. If by some magic you got in, you could figure out how to pay for it. So first of all, they look at what your folks make, and because you're from Georgia and not Philly, the fact that you have decent folks make decent money means on paper you look poor, because it's not Philly. So Yale says, oh, all right, underprivileged student, we'll give them some money. The fact that, blah, 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 blah. By the time they get it done, they'll discount the rate to get you in, and then you'll get a couple of grants, and then you'll get student loans. And those student loans will cover the gap to whatever they're charging. Okay? That means there's nothing keeping you from going to Yale, which sounds awesome from a policy perspective. We hate to see poor kids not able to chase their dreams. Okay? But recognize, as long as you have an almost unlimited checkbook in your back pocket because of things like college loans, there is no price pressure. Think about the housing bubble. Think about the housing bubble. The goal, the policy was to keep interest rates as low as possible. So everybody went out and bought a nicer house. Except, everybody didn't actually get a much nicer house. What happens when the interest rates are low, like you can still only spend what you can spend a month. Say it's $1,000. If the interest rates are low, that means that more of that $1,000 goes toward your capital, right? If the interest rates are high, more of that $1,000 goes to principal. The end price actually goes up. So the interest rates go down to almost zero.
Sorry.
That's okay. The interest rates go almost down to zero, and everybody gets new houses, but essentially all end up in the same neighborhoods. So only now the $50,000 houses are $100,000, but you've got the same neighbors you had before. The $150,000 people are in $250,000 houses, but essentially you have the same neighbors. And the $500,000 people are now in $1 million neighborhoods. But since everybody's reacting to this and everybody's moving, the net result is everybody ends up in the same neighborhoods. Maybe the houses are nicer. The most important thing is the house prices are higher, but the sorting process is the same. What this means for colleges, think about this, the rich kids still go to Harvard and Yale. They have less trouble making up that gap and have more money to work with. Everybody else falls out in the middle here, but because you've got how much room to work with in terms of available money, that pricing pressure doesn't work to keep the cost down. This is, if you will, this is a failure of free market economics. There are many people who will tell you higher education should not be about free market economics. Fair enough, but notice, let's say Dodge. We were talking about cars before you all got here. If Dodge makes trucks and people, the consumers, buy those trucks, there's a price point where, however good the trucks are, people are willing to actually pay for them. So if they have a bad year and make crappy trucks, no one's going to buy them. The price will drop until they get them off the lot. If they make awesome trucks, and because last year was bad, they run a short run this year, then there's going to be pressure to bring that up. Okay? So the company, the provider that's giving you the product, is the same person. Well, the provider provides the product. The person who's paying for the product is the same person that's using the product, is the same person that makes the decision. Okay? What you have, and I've said this before elsewhere, but look at it. A college provides education, right? The students consume the education. So maybe this should go this way. The parents pay for the education, and the students pay for education 30 years from now when their student loans are mortgaged. And other colleges determine the prestige because of the U.S. News rankings. Does that make sense? So if what you're looking for in a market situation is a congruence between a provider, a product, the information about the product, its price, and the consumer, we don't have that. This is similar to the pharmaceuticals market. In the pharmaceuticals market, you've got a drug company that makes a drug. The doctor actually is the one that chooses what drug it is. So the doctor is the consumer that the pharma company is marketing to. The insurance company is the person that pays for the drug, and you're the one who takes it. So if you have side effects, it's not really anybody's problem but your own. Because you are going to have to go back and complain to your doctor, and your doctor may or may not change it. Your insurance company is going to keep paying for it. Like, that market situation is so convoluted, it doesn't work in a straight line, and it ends up distorted. That's exactly what's going on with college. Other colleges dictate the prestige, which has a lot to do with the cost. Parents pay for it. And 17-year-olds are the ones that are making the decisions. And they're, swayed by 17-year-old things, which is all right. But just think, if you had to pay for college with cash, we would have fewer rock star gyms. But I guarantee you could still get tutoring in liberal arts if you wanted it. Okay? So, hold that thought, Chris. The one thing, now, well, okay, Chris, go ahead.
Would you say that the prestige and the likelihood of being able to pay off a student loan in this economy, do you think that would affect the cost of colleges is into increase for the opportunities or prestige available, or decrease?
Well, I think that in the short run, we're going to expect colleges to play this game and play this game and play this game until they can't. In the long run, I think, is where things are changing that could, not will, but could provide serious problems. Sarah?
With the whole colleges, they deny a certain number of people every year,
Right?
specifically to make themselves seem more desirable.
Yes.
And that plays into all of that too. You can't just say because we cost more. I mean, there's a reason they cost more. They, 9 times out of 10 are, you know, they have better professors, they have, you know, things that go into that. But because, like, they manipulate you, manipulate? I don't know how to pronounce the word, into choosing the college or applying to the college because they're like, oh, you know, out of 100 people, 75 get denied.
Yeah, there are places that will artificially inflate their application pools. The true rock star colleges don't need to, but a lot of the others do. I've even heard that sometimes they'll, on tours, on recruiting tours, they'll hit rotten schools, rotten high schools, knowing that they're not going to take anybody, but they don't mind getting a couple hundred extra applications. That strikes me as deeply cynical, but they may actually do it. I wouldn't be surprised. So, one of the problems you run into whenever you get a bubble in any class, asset class, is the cost of the thing has to balance against the income that thing provides. So, John Cougar. Blood on the scarecrow. No, rain on the scarecrow, blood on the plow, right? Where did the 1980s farm crisis come in? Rain on the scarecrow, blood on the plow.
Is that where are you from?
I'm not here.
Well, I know that, but is that like a local song?
Oh, good grief, John Cougar? John Mellencamp? Oh my, okay.
Poor child.
I know.
Well, let's see, did Beyonce sing a song about this? No, I can't come up with anybody new.
I don't like Beyonce either.
Well, I'm just trying to think of somebody. Okay, there was a huge farm crisis in the 80s. If you're old, you might remember it. If you're young, you don't. But a bubble's a bubble. Eventually somebody thought, oh, it's awesome, we'll put our wealth into farmland. Farmland up where I'm from cruises along at about $2,000 an acre. If you're a farmer and you buy that land and you put a 30-year mortgage on it, about what you can get per year is about what this is, plus a little bit more. So if you can pay cash, then this is great. If you have to put the mortgage on it, you can pay the mortgage with a little bit to live on. Not a lot, and a lot of people still go broke, but that's how it has to work. There has to be a balance. So when people say, farmland's a great place to put my money, and they start bidding up the farmland, well, when that bubble popped, farmland had gotten to about $10,000 an acre, when its price is supported at $2,000 an acre. And at some point, people taking mortgages couldn't pay it, and pop goes that bubble, and millions and millions of farm families lose their land. John Cougar writes songs. Willie Nelson has a benefit for farmers. That might have been one of the first, Farm Aid, might have been one of the first benefit concerts in recent times. But at any rate, that's what happened. Think of the housing bubble. The housing bubble, people say, look, God's not making any more land. Housing always goes up. It's different this time. And housing prices go up and up and up and up and up. Now, I guess the prices were on this side. Prices go up and up and up and up and up. But there's two things that control housing prices in terms of income. One is, what's the rent you can get on that house? And the other is, what's the income, if you live there, you could reasonably get within driving distance? So those are the two things that are going to balance the other side of this equation. Well, by the time you take out a 30-year loan, like if the only rent you can get in the area is $700, but you take a 30-year loan, and that's going to cost you more per month than $700, then the renters you get aren't going to cover this. And a few months of that, and these guys start going bankrupt until pop goes that bubble. The reason I set it up this way is because I've just given you a picture of college prices. College is getting more and more expensive because they're doing a very rational game trying to compete with each other and make themselves better, but without the kind of cost limits that exist in other markets. So they're competing, getting better, competing, getting better. And are they better? Yes. They're all better. They have better faculty. There's more publication going on. The gyms are gorgeous everywhere. They're most definitely better. But over here, how many of you are getting jobs? Now, if a few of you didn't get jobs, well, that just sucks. You're losers. If, however, 20-somethings across the board are having trouble getting jobs, or their jobs they're getting are $10 an hour chicken flippers, $9 an hour chicken flippers, then one of the things you're going to start seeing is, if you pay cash for this, not a problem. If, however, you took a student loan, whatever your student loan is, if you're only able to get that $9 an hour job, or you can't find any work at all, there's something that will drive that back down. Okay? Here's the third part of that puzzle. The first part is the cost plus a mortgage, i.e. student loan, against what you're going to get when you get out. Make sense? The cost has been going up. What you can make as you can get out has been stable or going down throughout this depression. The third one is the internet. Okay? We live in, for the first time ever, the entirety of human information is available to you for free. There's a lot of crap out there, but if you can develop the critical thinking skills, the entirety of human information is available for you for free. I am 100% certain you can teach yourself Spanish by finding somebody's YouTube channel for free. I'm 100% certain you can figure out how to fix your brakes on a YouTube channel for free. I'm 100% certain you can teach yourself sociology off of Spark Notes and grad students' blogs for free. Now, what do you think an employer is going to say when you walk up and say, "I'm sorry, ma'am, sir, I don't have a degree, but let me explain. Over the last 3 years, I have put myself through MIT's graduate network security program. It's all available for free on the internet. I retook every test until I got a 90%. I've got it all documented. And if you want, I'll stand for an oral exam on whatever security protocol your company is using." Or, "I just got out of school. I've got a few student loans I need to pay, so please hire me. I went to blank." You know who I would hire? Someone's got the discipline to teach themselves network security using MIT's open software is the person I want. Now, when you look at that cost plus mortgage, and you get parents saying, "Look, man, I'm not paying for it," and you have actually the stuff that's out there for free, you really have to wonder, how long is this going to go on? Now, this all said, I want to finish by saying, I am indeed boring and old-fashioned. I actually 100% believe in the liberal arts. I love liberal arts. I think everyone should learn liberal arts. Do I think you can do it for less than $250,000? Absolutely. I'm actually such a believer in the liberal arts, I would say it should be available to anyone. But given the world we have, it actually could be available to anyone. I think the liberal arts would be good for truck drivers. Driving down the road, listening to podcasts, just imagine it. I'm up here in my big red tractor, and I got Nietzsche playing in my brain. Der Übermensch. Ha ha ha. Right? It's great. I think that the liberal arts, the training part of education, is more available than ever. If you've got the discipline to teach yourself, it's out there. In fact, the cultivation part of education is more available than ever out there if you have the discipline and the interest to do it. I think we lived at a time that could be very dangerous for traditional universities, but which could be very entertaining to watch the next 10 or 15 years unfold. All right, thanks. Get out of here.